Why does negative 3 times negative 4 equal positive 12? Why not negative 12? This is a common question that almost everyone has, and in this video we're going to go over why a negative times a negative can equal a positive. Negative times a negative equaling a positive is a fundamental part of algebra, but it is important to actually understand why this happens. So we're going to prove it using patterns and then again using pure algebra to see why it actually works. First, let's go through a pattern proof of why this works. So I'm going to write the multiples of negative 4 over here. So let me just write 4 negative 4s. And then we're going to multiply by 3, 2, 1, and then 0. And this is going to be equal to negative 12, negative 8, negative 4, and finally 0. Do you notice the pattern here? Every time we move down one step, we're adding 4 to our answer. And so what happens if we continue this pattern over here? So we have negative 1 times negative 4, and that'll be 4 because we want to keep adding 4 every time we decrease 1. And then we have negative 2 times negative 4, and then that'll be 8 because we're adding 4 here. And then negative 3 times negative 4, that'll be 12 because we're adding our 4 here. So you can see that this gives us the answer of positive 12. And that is why a negative times a negative equals a positive. Now let's try to prove that using algebra to make sure that it's totally true. So we already know that a number minus any number equals 0. So let's write this as 0 equals x plus negative x. And remember, this just means x minus x. Now let's multiply both sides by negative 1. So times negative 1 times negative 1. And anything times 0 is just 0. And this will just be negative x plus negative 1 times negative x. And let's say we don't know that this is equal to positive x. Now let's rearrange this equation to make it more clear. So let's write 0 equals negative 1 times negative x plus negative x. Now do you see something here? These two have to multiply to give x. Otherwise, this equation is not true. Because if it was negative x, we would have 0 equals negative x plus negative x, which is equal to negative 2x. And 0 equals negative 2x is not true. It only works for x is equal to 0, and 0 is special as it is neither positive or negative. So this doesn't really count. And since x can be any number in this scenario, this means that negative times a negative is always equal to a positive. Now let's look back to our first problem. Negative 3 times negative 4 is equal to positive 12. Now we understand why this is positive 12 and not negative 12. So negative 12 would definitely be wrong in this case. And remember, this rule is not right.